Story 4.
My name is Janet Hill. I'm 22 years old. My mother is Lao, my father is English. He met her as a teacher in Vientiane, Laos, when he was about 28. He was working for VSO, which is Voluntary Services Overseas, and he met her at a festival for rain, which they do occasionally each year for the crops and the rain gods to rain down on the crops and give a fruitful harvest. I was born in Laos and left 2 years after due to the Vietnam War and Laos getting more and more involved in the Vietnam War, with my mother and father to Thailand. We then went to the UK, where my father did his MA in Applied Linguistics, and then he started working for the British Council. His first job overseas for the British Council was in Tanzania. We were at Mwanza in Tanzania for 4 years, and after the 4 years my father went to Senegal for 6 years. During that time I lived in Senegal for 4 years and started going to school in the UK at a Quaker school called Friends School in Saffron Walden, Essex. At the age of 12, my secondary education was in the UK at the Friends School. After I did my A-levels, which is 18 plus exams, it is customary for school leavers in the UK to take a year off, which is often referred to as a gap year. I went to India, where I was a voluntary teacher at a primary school for native Tamil village children, although it was under the umbrella of Orville, which is an international community based on the philosophy and the vision of a man called Sri Aurobindo, some sort of yogi with a white beard, I assume. It was created in 1969 by a woman called the Mother, a French Impressionist artist, who was a great disciple of Sri Aurobindo. She had a dream about this community, whatever. I thought it would be a good idea to create it smack bang in the middle of the Tamil Nadu desert. After India, I returned to Malaysia, where my parents were currently posted, and got myself a job in a graphic design consultancy firm called William Harold Wong and Company, later to be called the Design Circle, in Kuala Lumpur, which is the capital. After 3 months in Derby, I returned to Malaysia, returned to my job at the graphic design company. And when my parents moved to Hungary, basically Budapest, I came with them, immediately got a job at the British Council. And then I finally went to England, in Manchester, for temporary posting to cover someone's maternity leave in the Overseas Appointment Services, which was a department of the British Council which hired professionals and consultants around the world, including Central Europe, which is my field. And I have recently been offered an unconditional offer at the School of Oriental and African Studies, which is part of the University of London, to do Southeast Asian studies. And I would say that is predominantly my interest, as I would like to be involved in a region that I believe will be the leading region in the world. The West has had its time, and I think Asia will be an economic superpower and engulf all that is, including the Pacific Rim, which includes Japan and South Korea. And my main interest actually lies within Indochina because of my roots, because my mother being Laotian, and because of the historical evidence and the fact that it has not exactly been a region that has profited with war, which is rather unfortunate. What do I like? I did used to like water skiing until my knees buckled under me at one point. I I did a lot of swimming when I was young. Did a lot of swimming for the school, did a lot of swimming for my county, did a lot of swimming for Quaker Schools Anonymous, whatever. And I like to travel, and I think the main reason why I chose a subject which will take me overseas is because hopefully I will become a consultant in something or other to do with the region and be shunted off everywhere around the world. I sometimes wish that I had chosen Africa, having been brought up there for the majority of my life, and having spent my childhood in and around the East and West Africa, and travelling lots of South Africa. I once remembered that we went, well, when my parents were still posted in Mwanza in Tanzania, we drove down through Zimbabwe and Zambia, down to Malawi, and got to the South African border. And this, granted, was about 10 years ago, so apartheid was pretty strong. Nelson Mandela had not been released from prison. We got to the border of South Africa, and I believe it was Malawi, but my geography is not altogether strong right now. And we were not allowed to cross the border on the same bus as my father because he was white and my mother and I were brown. We were not allowed to travel on the same public transport. We were not allowed to use the same toilets. We were not allowed to sleep in the same hotels, let alone in the same rooms. I think that was my first brush with racism at such a scale. I don't really have much cause to fear racism, except on days in Hungary when there are nationalist overtones, but that doesn't thankfully happen often.
Cassette